Hello everyone, welcome to this week's video from the Purple Penny. We hold these videos every Monday at about this time, other issues in life permitting. My name's Mark, I own and run the Purple Penny along with my wife Catherine, and we're a small coin and banknote dealer in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. We buy and sell coins, banknotes and collectibles, medals and medallions and badges as well, and we're also authorised dealers for the Royal Australian Mint. So sometimes when the Royal Australian Mint has a release, we get a small allocation of coins that we try to make available here in the shop. So that's what we do. Excuse me. Apologies for that, it's the first cough all day, and of course I waited for the video. I just would like to say hello to the gentleman from Mildura that came in the week before last and commented on the volume level of the videos. I have tried to adjust that for you. Hopefully you can hear a little bit better. So before we get started, we'll just say a few hellos. Hello Peter, John, Patrick, Ted, Greg, and that's it for now. So hello to everyone else who joins in as we are talking. So we'll just jump into the news here. We'll start off with the Adelaide Coin Expo, which is being held on Saturday and Sunday, October the 5th at the Torrens Parade Grounds here in Adelaide, which is just on the northern fringes of the CBD of Adelaide. It is well worth coming along to the Expo. There'll be sort of 25 to 30 exhibitors there in a great big hall with several dozen tables of coins to look at. The Royal Australian Mint is going to be there doing a coin swap, and no doubt they'll have some new release mint product available there as well. This year there will be a gold coin admission required, and parking in front of the Expo building will cost $10, and I believe that is cash only. So if you're able to come along, please do come along. If you're going to drive and don't want to pay the $10 parking fee, there is free parking within sort of 5 minutes walk of the Expo, especially on Sunday. You shouldn't have any troubles getting some free parks pretty close nearby. We'll just go to the next item here. The shop has been closed since last Friday. That's our Morson Lakes shop, has been closed since last Friday. We're reopening on Wednesday the 14th of August. I'm just ducking into hospital tomorrow to have some things rearranged, and hopefully Catherine and I will be back on deck on Wednesday the 14th of August. The website will keep operating as normal for the next few days. It's probably going to get shut down next week so that Catherine can get some other stuff done and not have to come in here every day and mail things. So once we work out those dates, we'll pop that up on the website, and the website will close down probably for a few days. Apologies to anyone if that caused you inconvenience, but it'll only be for a few days, and then normal mailing activities will resume. There was a really interesting article I read this week about a Senate committee looking into the spending of various government departments, and it just caught my eye for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's interesting what government departments do spend their money on, and they do spend their money on some medals, which I thought was interesting. So this data comes straight from the Senate Legislation Committee notes. One of the senators asked various government departments to quantify their spending on promotional items, and these are all from the Department of Treasury. So the ATO spent $2,382 and $1,705 on challenge coins for what they called J5 and the Serious Financial Crime Task Force. The Australian Accounting Standards Board, now that sounds like an absolute thrilling board to be on, spent $3,297 on commemorative coins for the AOSSG conference. And if you're just wondering, the AOSSG is the Asian Oceanian Standard Setters Group, which is a group of organisations that get together and set accounting standards. Now that must be a pretty zany conference to get along to. No doubt lots of comedic routines going along there as they set our accounting standards. Now what really interested me about this wasn't just that government departments were spending money on medals, it was just the fairly horrific way that the senators, the government departments and the journalists who reported on this were using the word coin. The journalists just called these things, all of them, coins, and obviously they're not coins. One of the government departments correctly referred to them as challenge coins, and the other one called them commemorative coins. And obviously they're not coins. Coins are struck by governments and they have a face value and they have an accepted face value in trade. You could argue that these are challenge coins, and challenge coins are a military oriented coin, and I've spoken about these before. They used to have to be presented when you were challenged, and if you didn't present one of these challenge coins then you have to buy everyone a drink. But as is the way of things, these have become more and more diluted down, the term challenge coins, and it's spread to police forces and fire departments and now, boring old financial government departments. So I would probably call these commemorative medals rather than challenge coins, and they're certainly not coins. I would call them commemorative medals. And it is just interesting that government departments are making these for attendees at conferences and things like that. So interesting bit of coin-focused news there. There was a Yahoo Finance article this week about the 2011 10 cent, which you probably know is one of the lowest mintage circulation 10 cent pieces. As far as I can tell, it's the second lowest mintage recorded to date. The 2021 10 cent has a lower recorded mintage, but I suspect that mintage isn't complete. They've got a catalogue value of $45 and uncirculated. The article, of course, uses hysterical headlines and says that an ordinary 10 cent is worth $50. The TikToker that the journalist stole the information from said they were worth anywhere from $3.80 to $50, which is probably a fair valuation of the coin. We sell circulated examples in here for $10, and I can see sold results on eBay ranging from $3 to $50, and the $50 was a example from a 2011 mint set, so that probably explains that one is a bit of an outlier. Now, let's have a look at some more hellos here before we continue. Hello Catherine, Carolyn, Ray, Gwen, Peter, Matthew, PCE Supercore, who I believe told me their name last week but I've forgotten. Patrick says, do you sell capsules for larger coins like 20 and 50 cent? Yes, we do have some of those in here, Patrick, and if we don't have any we can always get them in. John Belcher says those medals should be called tokens. Well, I don't agree with that. I don't think they should be called tokens, because tokens usually have some accepted value in trade. They're often issued by private issuers and they have a face value on them sometimes. I would call them medals or medallions. I certainly wouldn't call them tokens. I don't believe they have any acceptable commercial value. Hello Wendy, how are you? Right, next item in the news. There's a 1 kilo gold coin selling tomorrow at the latest Noble auction. Really interesting coin, not just because it weighs a kilo and that kilo happens to be gold. It's the fact that there's only, according to the Noble's website, only 4 of these been minted, and the one that's on display, the one that's available at auction, is certificate number 1, and supposedly it was on display at the Royal Australian Mint until the end of 2023. How Noble's got their hands on it, I have no idea. So what is a kilo of gold worth today? Well, today a kilo of gold is worth $117,573. And the estimate on this coin on the Noble's website was $100,000. So if you include the 22% buyer's premium on that, then the estimate is $122,000. The current bid is $90,000. So there could be a bargain there if you happen to go and bid $95,000. You get it for a bit below spot price. So if anyone's keen, please go ahead and do that. But a mintage of just 4. That's a pretty low mintage. It's a pretty low mintage. The next 2 items I'm going to talk about have got to do with the UK. I wasn't aware of this, but 1p and 2p coins still circulate in the UK. We didn't see any when we were over there. And of course Australia got rid of their 1 and 2 cent pieces in 1990, I think, or 1991. Interestingly, the Royal Mint hasn't minted any 1 or 2p coins since 2021, and the 2p coins, at least, they've only actually minted them from 2017 to date in 2021, so very low demand on them. And for the first time ever, the Department of Treasury in the UK didn't order any coins from the Royal Mint this year of any type, and they don't expect to order any 1 or 2p coins for several years. So what does that mean? It means that, maybe the UK are going to see the end of the 1p and 2p coin, and as we did, as I said, in about 1990-91 with the 1 and 2 cent coin. Of course, it's not the end of the world. Australia kept running when the 1 and 2 cent piece disappeared. The usual sort of hysteria is going around in the UK for the 1 and 2p coin disappearing. The article that I got this information from went on to say that this year, or the financial year just ended in the UK, for the first time since 2019, cash usage actually went up in the UK, and that coins like the 1 and 2p and banknotes are going to be legislated to be made available by the government. So in September, some UK legislation comes into force that forces post offices and banks and places like that to offer cash, because they think that somewhere between 3 and 5 million people in Britain still rely on cash, and that cash needs to be made available to them. Of course, businesses want to make a profit, and if they think they can increase their profit by providing less services, i.e. getting rid of cash, then they will. So the government there is doing the right thing and forcing those businesses to allow cash to still be available. Still on the subject of the UK, there's still £7.2 billion of paper notes that haven't been turned in, despite the fact that in about 2016 paper notes started getting removed from circulation and being made obsolete. The £20 and £50 notes were removed from circulation in 2022. So £7.2 billion worth of paper notes still haven't been turned in. You can still turn in your paper notes in the UK at various banks and post offices or the Bank of England. It is quite difficult to do that though. When we were over there, I did a bit of research into how to do that and failed miserably. Alternatively, you can go to the Bank of England themselves in central London, and there's a counter there specifically for turning in paper banknotes. Apparently the wait at that counter can be particularly long. There is actually a form online on the Bank of England website that you can fill in and mail the notes in, and they'll exchange them and put the money directly into your bank account as well. The Royal Mint said that there's still 76 million old style £1 coins in circulation. The £1 coin was removed from circulation in 2017 and replaced by a 12-sided coin, a 12-sided bimetal coin, in an attempt to reduce the number of counterfeit pound coins that are in circulation. You can't spend those £1 coins in the UK anymore, no one will accept them. So again, you have to turn them in at various banks and post offices and try and get your money back that way. But still 76 million of those coins outstanding in the UK. For the third week in a row, we'll talk about Japanese banknotes. There's an exhibition just opened at the Tokyo National Museum. Oh, what's happened? Sorry, my image has disappeared. I think Windows has chosen this particular moment to install an update. Just give it a minute, and the picture will reappear, I believe. So the Japanese National Museum is having a display of art by the Japanese National Printing Bureau, and the Japanese still use a lot of hand-created art and engraving in their banknotes, and a lot of traditional security features. And the two that the exhibition is focusing on are intaglio printing and watermarking. And if you can remember back to your paper banknotes, you would have seen watermarks on paper banknotes. And watermarks are variations in the thickness of the paper of the banknote, and if you hold them up to the light you can see those watermarks on there, and they are very difficult to reproduce. In fact, the Japanese Note Printing Authority still does not disclose how they apply watermarks to their banknotes, despite the fact that they've been doing it for over 170 years. They still haven't disclosed how they do that. The other technique that the exhibition focuses on is what's called intaglio printing, and intaglio printing is a textured ink that is applied with a very fine pitch to banknotes. And how fine is that pitch? Perhaps 10 separate lines per millimetre, and as I said, the ink itself is textured. It's usually black, and when it is applied to the banknotes you can actually feel the ink as you run your fingers over the top of the banknote, which obviously if a banknote is photocopied or printed on an inkjet printer is not possible, or a coloured laser printer is not possible. And anyway, the Japanese banknote authorities still create the finely detailed intaglio images by hand on their printing plates. So some very talented artists transcribe images by hand onto metal printing plates, and I find that to be quite remarkable. So this week is a question and answer video. I try to do this on the last Friday of the month, so I'll just check to see if there's any questions here in the comments I can answer before we get onto the three ones that I've pre-prepared. Hello Mariana, hello Peter. Matthew Charger Rice says, is there any notice about the next coronation coin? No, that's an easy one. Hello Cam, hello Sean. Carolyn says, does Jim also have watermarks? Jim is Japanese invasion money. Not that I've noticed, Carolyn, not that I've noticed. But the production quality of Japanese invasion money was very poor, and that's a good question. I would actually have to have a look at all the notes we've got to see if there's any watermarks on Japanese invasion money. Right, so the first question I got asked was, does the gold price change or just the exchange rate? A common misconception that people have about the gold price that you see on the news every day is the gold price that you can sell things and buy things for in a shop like ours. The trouble with that is that the news always reports the gold price in US dollars, and sometimes they don't make that particularly clear. As our shop is in Australia, we deal in the gold price in Australian dollars, and the gold price in Australian dollars can change quite differently to the US dollar price because of exchange rates, the exchange rate being the value of the Australian dollar in US dollars. So someone asked, does the gold price actually change, or is it just the exchange rate changing? So I took the time this morning to do a little graph there, and that is the gold price in US dollars and Australian dollars normalised on the 1st of January the year 2000, and then plotting it every day until the present day. And by normalised, all I did was set the gold price on the 1st of January to 1, and then plotted the changes from that value of 1 up until to date. So you can see the orange line there is the Australian dollar price, and the blue line is the US dollar price, and you can see that those prices do diverge because of exchange rate issues. So for several years, from about 2009 through to 2015 or 2016, the returns in US dollar terms on gold were a lot higher than the returns in Australian dollar terms in gold. But then you can see as the years go by, those returns have converged again. So Where we are today, in US dollar terms and Australian dollar terms, gold has gone up by about 820 to 850% since the 1st of January the year 2000, whether you bought it in American dollars or US dollars. What does that mean? It means that sometimes, depending on the exchange rate, your returns in Australian dollars will be less than those in US, and sometimes they'll be more. So the lessons to take away from this are that don't listen to the numpties on the news when they tell you the price in US dollars, because it's meaningless. Nowhere in Australia sells gold over the counter for US dollar prices. It's always Australian dollars. And always check out the price in Australian dollars, and really at the end of the day, that's all that matters. So thank you to the person who asked that question. Someone wanted to know the pros and cons of buying at auction. So I don't need to explain what an auction is, but here in Australia there are dedicated coin auction houses: Nobles, Downies, IAG, Roxbury, Status International. There are auction houses that also sell coin related and banknote related stuff. I'm just struggling to think of any of those at the moment. And then there's sort of local auction houses, where people sell house contents and things like that. And there is a way, it is a way of buying things. So what are some of the pros of buying at auction? Well, usually these days auction can be accessed from anywhere. Most auction houses these days have online bidding facilities, which is a good thing, and you'd think that has been happening for a while, but for a lot of big auction houses, online bidding is a fairly new thing for them. Often at auctions, a wider range of material might be available, and that's because people submit their collections to auction houses to be disposed of, and you can see quite a diverse range of material in auctions. Perhaps more so than you would see in a retail shop like ours, because our space is limited and we need to, I guess, focus our in-shop contents on things that will sell in the shop. There's no point having cabinets full of Lithuanian coins here in our shop, because no one's ever come in here and asked for a Lithuanian coin. But of course, if we pop them up on our website, then they might garner some interest there, and auctions are the same. You can get specialised auctions, so auctions that specialise in ancient coins. So CNG auctions in the US is a good example of that. You get auctions that specialise in militaria or other sorts of collectibles. So what does that mean? It means that if you've got a special area of interest, then there's probably going to be an auction somewhere that you can purchase from that has items that you might be interested in. If you live where an auction is, then one of the great benefits of that is that you can go in and look at things, and that can be a huge advantage to you. If you can go in and look at lots, you can really see the quality of the items. If there are bulk lots, you can look through the bulk lots and find items in the bulk lots that aren't described specifically that might make the lot worth a lot more. You can see if things are overgraded or undergraded. If you're into sending coins to PCGS, you can get a proper look at the grades of things, and so there is a real advantage to be had if you live somewhere where an auction actually takes place and you get to actually look at the stuff. As a buyer, and I guess as a seller, one of the big advantages of auctions is that the market sets the price. For a good auction, the market should set the price. So that means that while things are hot, you might do very well by selling things at auction as opposed to selling to a dealer or something like that. And sometimes bargains can be had at auctions, and that can happen for a number of reasons. Perhaps the market is flat in a particular area. Perhaps the auction house itself has poor marketing and doesn't reach a wide audience, so things go cheap. And as I said, if you get to look at the lots in the auction, then sometimes you can find bargains by eye in auctions that you're not going to be able to find online. The cons to auctions are often there are shipping costs, and often those shipping costs can be very high. transaction costs, so surcharges for credit cards and things like that. And of course there are buyer premiums. So here in Australia at least, most auctions charge what's called a buyer's premium, and that's a percentage that is added on top of the selling price. And a lot of people don't take that into account and get their fingers burnt because of that. Most auction houses here in Australia, it's 22% at the moment. On the selling side, sometimes auction houses charge a selling premium as well, so they get a fee on both sides of the transaction. And a lot of the time that means that you actually are more out of pocket by selling at auction than you would be sometimes selling to a dealer. So there seems to be this feeling that it's a black and white choice. You sell at auction, you make more money. That isn't the case a lot of the time. Sometimes the auction houses aren't particularly transparent in their bidding activity, and I won't name any names here, but there's a couple of auction houses here in Australia I will never buy from because we've put in minimum bids on hundreds and hundreds of lots, and we always get maxed out on our bidding amounts. And what does that mean? It means that, let's say for example, an item has a reserve of $500, and Catherine and I decide that we'll pay up to $750 for that item. Now, in theory, if we are the only people that bid on that item, we should get it for $500. But a couple of auction houses I can think of, we invariably pay $750. And having been into some of these room auctions, I have seen the people that run the auction look down at their computer and go, okay, someone online is willing to bid $750 on this item. Do I have anything higher? And you end up paying the full $750. So that transparency is lacking on some of the auction houses here in Australia. Some of the auction houses don't allow you to see the lots in person, even if you do live in the same place as the auction is happening, and I find that to be troubling. And if you do live remotely, not being able to see things can be troubling as well. So if you can't see something, then you want to make sure that you know what the return policy is for that particular auction house. There can be more competition. Now, what does that mean? It means that desirable items can go, when you're trying to buy them, can go for much higher prices, even if they have problems, because people online just get crazy when they see desirable items and prices just go out of control, and it's hard to explain. I don't understand why it happens, but it does. And certainly here in the shop, we've had people buy things at auction here in Adelaide and bring them in here and try to sell them to us, and we've had the same things in our cabinets for much less than what they paid for in the auction. Condition can be variable. What does that mean? It means that there's no common language between the way that the auction house describes the item and how you understand the condition. So the way of avoiding that is to only buy third-party graded items, but of course some items are not graded, so that can be a challenge as well. You may see an item that you want that's in a bulk lot, but you have to buy the whole lot, and then you're stuck with a whole pile of stuff that you don't want, so that can be an issue at auction. And regardless of the return policy, sometimes returning things can be very problematic. I've certainly heard stories of auction houses here in Australia refusing to accept returns on things that are not genuine, or that the provenance doesn't match what was described in the lots, or the description simply doesn't match what was described in the lots. So sometimes even with a supposedly good return policy, returning things can be problematic. So let's just have a look at a few comments here before we move on to the next item. Peter says he can't think of anyone that doesn't charge a buyer's commission. Peter says if you cannot view lots, avoid. And Peter says only bid on third-party graded items. Greg says shield bidding is a possibility. PCE Supercore says auctions bring out those most admirable of human qualities, fear and greed. Yes. Right, so the next question I got asked was, how do we set our prices here on things? And there is no hard and fast answer to that. Many times, certainly here in the shop, when you've bought something, it's done. Doing price research at that point is done, because as we buy things over the counter, we have to know what we think we can sell something for, and then we make an offer based on that. And if we purchase an item and we get it out the back and realise we've made a mistake, well, it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what we paid for it. We can only sell it for what we can get for. So one of the things that I say in here when we're setting a selling price is that it doesn't matter what you paid for it, because if you've made a big mistake, you're not going to recover that cost. You can't. If you paid $1,000 for something that's only worth $500, you can't set a price of $1,200 expecting you're going to make your money back, because you won't. On the flip side of that, if you underpay for something because perhaps you thought there was a problem with it, and then when you get it out back you realise there isn't, then you could potentially sell it for more than what you're anticipating. So really, setting the price has to happen when you're buying something. You have to know what you think you can sell something for when you're buying it, and when you've bought it, it's too late. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. At that point, you sell it for what you can get. So that being said, do we add a profit margin for overheads and things like that? No. I mean, that's just a ballpark thing for us. And the margins that we make on things very much depend on, I guess, how easy we think something is to sell, also how many we've got already, and where the market is on things. Like if the market is very volatile on something, so the prices are changing quickly, then we'll tend to pay less. If we have if we have a lot of something, then we'll tend to pay less. And if something is going to be very slow to move, then we'll tend to pay less. But that being said, if we think something is going to move quickly, we'll tend to pay more. If we know something is particularly desirable, we'll pay more. And then there are prices that are really just determined by the precious metal value. And if you come in here to buy gold or sell gold to us, I won't negotiate on the price of gold, either on the buying or selling side, because we just buy based on the daily price and we sell based on the daily price. And that means some days we win and some days we lose. And that's as transparent as we can be. So what are some sources of information? Auction catalogues, website catalogues, asking prices on eBay, asking prices in shops, online auctions, room auctions, eBay sold results. You can ask an expert. If you ring us and ask us what you should sell something for, we won't tell you, because if you are going to sell something, then you need to work that out yourself. You're not going to get that information out of us. You can go on gut feel. Is something really desirable, and you're an expert in that particular area, then you can go on gut feel and come up with a price that way. Is it based on cost prices? As I've already said, no, not really. Certainly for new release stuff it is. So mint product and things like that we sell at recommended retail. And I guess the second last point here is you've got to have some courage. If you're going to be in the game of buying and selling things, and it doesn't matter whether it's coins or whatever, then you've got to have some courage and set a price. No one's going to hold your hand. No one's going to tell you what to do. And you've got to just set a price. You've got to set a price. And if you don't have the courage to set a price because you're worried you're going to lose money, or because you're indecisive or whatever, then find something else to do. You've got to set a price. And if you can't do it yourself, find something else to do. Nothing frustrates me more than people wanting information spoon-fed to them, because they want to get every last dollar out of something, and they don't want to make a mistake. And you know what? That's not the real world. You're going to make mistakes. Sometimes you'll win, sometimes you lose. And if you want to move forward as a coin dealer, then get some courage and set a price. And the last one there is you just have to accept the fact that sometimes you win and sometimes you lose, and that's it. Hopefully you win more than you lose, but you are going to lose sometimes. And again, if that bothers you, if that drives you away from the business, well, like I said, you should find something else to do, because sometimes you are going to lose. Right, let's have a look at the questions in the... there were some other questions here, was there? Alan says he noticed there's a release of a new £5 coin. Yeah, I spoke about those last week, Alan. And yeah, I spoke about the paper notes, Alan, as well, just previously, so you can re-watch all of that rather than going through it again. No worries, Patrick. Thanks for watching. Right, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for joining in. There won't be a video next week. I won't be up to it, but hopefully the week after we'll be back on board with our video as normal. So thank you everyone for your kind wishes about the operation. I'm sort of slightly overwhelmed with it all. The kind wishes. It is very much appreciated. Thank you for your understanding while we're closed, and save up your questions for when we're back. So thank you everyone for that. Right, happy collecting everyone. Stay well, stay safe over the next couple of weeks. We'll be back in a couple of weeks, I hope. Okay, so bye for now.